Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of Mexico City, the show of Contramar, Mezcal, cocktails, and so much more. Today we're sitting down and chatting with Alberto Espinosa, one of the founders of Recia, which is a tasting room for Mezcal and destilados, one in Oaxaca and one in Mexico City. He came to my house just this week. We had a beautiful group of folks, candlelit, sage burning, great playlist in the background. We sipped some beautiful mezcales, actually some of the best mezcal I've ever tried. And I'm always a little reticent, when people say I want to do this tastings and it's not necessarily as interactive, or they want to talk about this and that. Some brands are, they can be really, really annoying with the kinds of things they want you to know about the brand. But Alberto was kind, connective, and it was a beautiful moment with about 10 other folks cooking and drinking and talking. And I certainly would compel you to go to the Recia tasting room in Oaxaca after what I experienced on Friday night here at my own house. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed this great chat with Alberto Espinosa.
I don't know if I would call me creative, but I know that I'm always searching for the creative part inside of me, probably, if I would like to say that.
Yeah.
It's like a need that I have, and probably for whatever I do, either for work or or as a routine, that creative part is something that I search for a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's just part of fulfilling that spiritual aspect of mine. I would say that.
I like that. I had a conversation with my friend the other day. He's quite a good chef, and he works in tech, and he's been kind of almost literally stuck in a room doing spreadsheet work. And I said, when are you going to be able to get out and cook again? Because he's a father and stuff. He's not really a very old guy. He can feel it when he needs to fulfill the creativity. What happens to you when you know that you need to create something or you need to pursue that creativity? How does it feel inside of you?
Like something is missing, maybe. I've always said that whatever I do in life, it needs to have certain impact.
To yourself, to personally, or to community, or to the world?
Both. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I just fell in love with Mezcal, for example.
Yeah.
Getting in touch with the families that we collaborate with, and especially because we don't work as a Mezcal brand.
Right.
And before that, I was involved more in the restaurant business, which is different dynamic. It may be related to it, but it's a different dynamic. And also in my family, I think that there's always, for example, music was a big part of my family. My brother played the violin. My
amazing.
sister played the flute. And I have another brother that he's in theater. He plays the drums. He plays the guitar. So I was quite
around it.
Yeah, I was around it and exposed. And I did some instruments when I was younger.
Any of them take? Any of them really that you connected with?
Well, I played the bass when I was a teenager, and I was also following that because I looked up to my brother, because the older one, that plays more instruments. So I felt that need. I think probably I'm 43.
Same.
So I think that probably has been more obvious in the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Probably I think it's probably at the stage of my life that I'm at, that I need to feel that I'm doing something that it's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And if it has certain impact, just any kind of positive impact outside of me, then I have that feeling that I'm doing something, that I'm moving forward. You know?
I absolutely agree. I've come to the realization, and this was a question I was going to ask you, it's kind of surrounding purpose, because purpose is an interesting thing. You know, I almost feel like I'm personally lucky to realize what my purpose is. At least for me, I find it very clear.
Okay.
And for me,
give me the recipe.
Well, okay.
I think of that every day, every morning. Like I get asked that question, and I think I know what my purpose is now, but I will tell you in a minute.
Okay, yeah, we gotta, we gotta exchange purposes. Right. If you've ever seen the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin, like a long time ago, he's got a special purpose. This is a joke that two people will get, but it doesn't matter. But so what I realized is that I've owned a distillery for over a decade now. Right. Never really made money. We could have made choices to make a vodka to flavor this, flavor that. But what I realized is the most rewarding thing for me in that piece, I've been playing music as well, as you see this kind of guitars and everything around us. I realized that it's really just about creating. It's not about selling the creations or monetizing them.
Right.
And just the process for me. I remember I was like chopping a soto plant in half or something in my driveway, right? Like who does that shit, right? And I realized this is what I was made to do. I was made to create. I was made to use my hands, my mind, and all of that. So for me, now my purpose is quite clear. And as we're the same age, I only probably figured this out. It's funny. It's kind of the same trip. Like maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. 2-3 years ago. So that's what it is for me. What do you, at 43 now, what are you thinking? What have you kind of honed in and chiseled your purposes now, you think?
It's learning about myself.
Oh.
That's kind of, this happened just like a couple of weeks ago that I realized that, because it's a question that I've been asking myself constantly for a long time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I got a little bit frustrated because I felt like I was navigating in like every direction, and I've been spending a lot of time like in solitude in the last 6-7 months, and the conversations that you have with your own self when you're spending, even though I'm working always and I am doing tastings and this and that, I kind of need to step back and be alone and kind of like regroup, recalibrate.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of intimate conversations with your own self when you're in solitude.
I love that. Yeah.
I would say they have been very rewarding in that search, which probably never ends, maybe.
I hope it doesn't, actually,
Yeah.
Given that we were kind of finally, in our 40s, hitting the good stretch of life in a sense, what is maybe something you've learned about yourself recently?
That I can connect to parts of me that I forgot.
Really?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Amazing. Any examples you have?
Contact that serenity and calmness, and I realized, and I'm not trying to just repeat like a self-book quote, but I really realized that that's very powerful.
It is
very, very powerful in so many aspects. When I was working in the restaurant business,
I was just gonna ask you. That's loud. That's fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I work with people that they have like this rhythm, like top people in the industry in Mexico City, that they have this rhythm, and you get in that rhythm because you're kind of following that train.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I thought that was what I needed to do, so I did it, and I learned a lot. But I realized that when I left the restaurant business, I was like over accelerated in a way of that rhythm, and it's like when you
I want to see. I have the perfect metaphor too, but I want to see what you say.
Do you remember? I mean, I know you've ever felt that if you work very hard for a certain period of time and then you just stop, you get that for a few days or weeks, you get that like anxiety effect, like I need to do something, I need to do something. So I used to get that a lot when I was working in the restaurant business.
So I know exactly what you're talking about, and this is how I describe it to people. I don't like treadmills, honestly. I prefer lifting weights or whatever. You know, we all have our ways to be healthy.
Okay.
But imagine you're jogging on that treadmill, you're trying to put in 2 miles or whatnot.
Not treadmill. Let's say the park.
The park, sure.
That's
yeah,
better.
you got it. Well, this will make a little more sense. Is that so? But once you step off that treadmill, your body's still in motion, and you can feel the floor still moving, even though it's still.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's that same kind of thing mentally.
Right.
How did I do create some time to not create, to not do the absence of noise. Ultimately, you know, which is ironic since I play music to relax, and that's more noise in one sense, right?
Right.
But what does the solitude look like for you? So, for instance, is nature a good respite for you, or would you prefer being at home in a comfortable place of which you're familiar?
Both.
Both.
Nature obviously has this effect. For example, I like to exercise and I like to do it outdoors.
Yeah.
I like that feeling of outdoors. I don't run on the street, for example. I like to go to a park or whatever. But being in your own space also creates that sense of calmness.
Yeah.
And also, I've been learning a lot about being comfortable when I'm uncomfortable.
Well, that's interesting.
You know, and doing stuff that mentally I didn't want to do, but then I just forced me to do them, and then I realized how those things that I did complemented me in many ways.
Interesting. Interesting.
For example, I've been going back and forth to Mexico City, like work-wise. I moved to Oaxaca a few years back, and my house is in Oaxaca. But we started working in a space in Mexico City, and so I'm in Mexico City, but I don't have a house.
I see.
So I'm moving all around with friends and this and that, and obviously after a certain point, I was like, it was driving me crazy, and I kind of said, okay, this is happening for a reason. And I always tell a good friend of mine, like joking around, I say, well, I think I was asking for the universe to move around because I wanted to do something in life that I could move around and travel.
Right.
But I didn't want to move within the same city. and my friend said, well, you should have be more clear with the universe. And
I know, man.
Maybe this is like a training for the next step. I don't know.
It's an interesting concept. I do believe a lot in that what you put into the world as what you desire and what you want to give to others, these things are often returned to you. You don't expect it. It's a boomerang that you just throw off into the ether, and sometimes it comes back and it's like, this is a way bigger boomerang than what I do. It's very interesting. Before the foray into mezcal, because my dad's restaurant, he was restaurant. Once my folks got married, the only reason we moved all the time, he's taking a new operation position. He's owned his own spot, so I get that business pretty in detail.
Hectic, yeah.
It's super hectic. Wow, and there's a good story about him I'll tell you after. But was that where you kind of found your career to begin, or had you had another direction where you wanted to go in instead? Because you talk about art around music, acting, and
I had no idea that was where I wanted to go. Honestly, I did like the restaurant business for a certain amount of time, and then it kind of bored me off after a while.
Did something happen, or was it just a steady weathering and just long hours? And
well, I was into the rush and the dynamic, but when I wanted to grow with the group that I was working with, there wasn't nothing available for me to grow. So I changed to a more executive. Kind of related to restaurants, but more like an executive position in another company. Yeah. And I did a project, like a consulting project for a year almost 2 years, but like a desk job is definitely not
your thing, right?
For me.
Yeah.
No. I need a different dynamic in work. Like I need to move around. Like a desk job is definitely not what I was doing. So it kind of brought me down a little bit, and then I met my business partner, and I was always in contact with Mezcal, obviously because of work.
Sure.
But that the restaurant business didn't take me directly to the Mezcal world.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I find that, and this came up in a chat I recorded in Houston a couple weeks ago. Hospitality, I don't know why, but somehow it feels like it's almost genetic, right? So my dad has it now. He's not genetically related, but my mom, bartender, registered nurse, caring for others and all these. Does hospitality, do your folks, or do they ever work in the industry?
No, nothing.
No, nothing at all. What
and I started in hotels before I was in restaurant.
Yeah.
So I did some hotel work operations, and then I moved to restaurants. And when I moved to restaurants, I met my former boss. She's a very well-known restaurateur in Mexico and in the States.
Oh, Conchamar?
Yes.
Yeah, I took one guess at that one. Yeah.
Why?
I love that restaurant, and I know of her. I've never met her, and I don't know anything about her demeanor or any of that. But I definitely know.
I mean, this was long. I worked with them for 8 years, probably.
Yeah.
This was a long time ago, like 2002 up until 2010.
So that's way before.
Yeah. So yeah, none of my parents were in the industry, and I met her through another friend because one of her partners at Contramar introduced me to her because a good friend of mine is cousin. No, it's not cousin. It's cousin of a cousin from one of the partners. So we got introduced, and she said something like, I did an interview, and she said, do you want to be a restaurant manager? And I said, I have no idea how to be a restaurant manager. She said, I'll teach you. Okay. And that's how I got into the...
Roughly how old? Well, no, you were early 20s, 22, 23? Yeah, when you started. Oh, that's really young. So you spent at least 15 years, almost 20 years potentially in the...
Yeah. So I was part of that, starting boom of mezcal in Mexico. I remember that we were pretty much we were working in a place called Cibeles, which opened in 2004. And that was one of the first places that was doing cocktails in Mexico City.
Oh, yeah.
Way before. You've been to Mexico City?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what you see now in Colonia Roma and all that area did not exist. Nothing. So that was the first bar. So I remember that I'm not a cocktail person.
No?
No. And I've never been a cocktail person. But the people that I was working with, they were starting to work with, to experiment with mezcal cocktails and this and that. But back then, people they used to drink Bacardi, Absolut, and Johnny Walker, and Tequila Tradicional. Yeah. Those were the favorite drinks. Like nobody was paying attention to cocktails there. So we were trying back then to push more the mezcal. We were already working with Sotol, but people were not really paying attention. Back then we had different brands like Enmascarado. Do you know Enmascarado?
Oh, I don't think so.
An old Mexican brand.
Nice.
I don't think it ever came to the States.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit exposed to those.
Well, that's a long. I mean, that's before. So this is all right. This is something that I'd love to get your feedback on. I've similar trajectories in some sense, right? The music thing, I didn't quit music, but I decided not to go on tour to work in tech, which has been fine. It's been good. I've enjoyed it, and what I'm doing now is pretty interesting stuff involving AI. So anyway, but I see a lot of people, and I just wrote about this. Because I didn't know this about you, and I'm glad that I found this out because you've really been in hospitality a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, look at him.
Yes. It's kind of like I was thinking like, am I that old?
It's not about that, right? It's
yeah, I know,
like
but yes,
you've cut your teeth on it, like obviously, and so I could vouch for you almost immediately because we know some of the same people, some of the same producers.
Okay.
We've been doing this. I've been in this air quotes in mezcal, like education stuff, like 10, 11 years, right?
Yeah.
So quite a while, right? And how do you feel about new people coming in wearing the hat of expertise about mezcal and they teach everybody about it? Do you think that that's a good thing, or do you think that it needs more experience with the families, the place, the production? Do you see any distinction there?
I think you need both.
Yeah.
Probably one of the reasons why we decided to shift a little bit the tastings that we do was because we wanted. My business partner Anna, she's from Oaxaca, and when we met, we just had this chemistry, and we started this project.
Is it purely platonic?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's
because I'm working with your partner is difficult sometimes.
Yeah. No. I mean, she's my business partner, and we just met, and we just had a very nice chemistry, and I started. Before I moved to Oaxaca, I was coming and going, and then I decided to move to Oaxaca because I was already starting to work with mezcal with her. And then the project became something else, and it's been very organic, the way we've been wanting it to develop. I think you need both, and I like to observe and know what's going on and what people are doing. To get more information as what do I believe that I want to do. I think you do need that lecture, that information out. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot. I know that, like, the more I go into the world of mezcal and the more I realize that I know nothing.
Thank you. Same.
The more that I realize that
I love it.
Like when I'm doing a tasting, and I know there's people that maybe people that are coming tonight probably have more knowledge in terms of technical stuff,
sure,
maybe than what I do. But I will tell them the story that comes from my own experience that has to do a lot with the connection with the people that we collaborate with, and hopefully that will show them a different side, something that's newer.
That's the most. That's the way to do it, right? I know nothing, right? In the scheme of things,
right?
I am powerless to what I will continue to learn, and I understand that about mezcal. No matter where I've been, what I've seen, what I've tasted, I don't ever need you to know that. Some people they're like, oh well, this about mezcal,
right? And something I've learned is that a maestro mezcalero, at least the ones that we work with, they're so transparent, and they're not trying to prove anything to anyone. And they're very wise people.
Yes.
And being in contact with them, it's very nurturing. So it gives you a different perspective as a urban person than a farmer that's been doing this craft for generation after generation.
Right.
They just have a very different perspective.
And I love that. I absolutely agree. And in a sense, I'm envious of what solitude, in a sense, they can have, because being in the urban area,
right?
Noise. We got our phones. There's business. There's email. Instead of the almost singular focus sometimes that is, that's the plant. I'm going to go get that plant. I'm going to get it out of the ground, chop it up, and then make my thing.
And do what I think I do best.
Exactly. Exactly. Speaking of purpose, right?
And they do it with love, and like I said before, they're not trying to prove nothing to anyone.
Right.
It's just their livelihood, and we've spiced it up a little bit because for me it's magical. As a Mexican. And obviously, Mexican culture has a lot of, beliefs and superstition, and that's a very important part of the communities that produce the spirit.
Yeah.
Hence the word spirit.
That's right. Yeah, great point.
And all of what they believe and how they harvest and the relationship that they have with their land and with the plants and within themselves and with family. It teaches you a lot.
It does.
So I think that kind of molded a little bit, not a little bit, that molded the experience that we take on the tastings. We will never replicate when you're down at a palenque drinking with a maestro, and you can drink so much mezcal.
Yeah.
That's nothing we don't want to recreate, but we want to recreate something that's pure and like sensory experience, so that we have that it has an impact on the person, an emotional impact on the person, and like the mezcal speaks for itself.
I love that.
Yeah, and even the buzz that it gives you, it's magical. Like it feels very different from another spirit, at least from my perspective.
For years, we've in the community we said, I don't know why. I mean, I only have one scientific maybe explanation for it, which doesn't matter, but it does do that. It's a different way that a spirit inspires you. Mezcal inspires you in a wholly different way. Back to when I was saying I use that word all the time. I think that this is true about you. You tell me. Being in hospitality, at least most of the time, the folks that are in hospitality, they are in fact hospitable. They're nice people. They really are concerned about the care for others and making sure people are taken care of. That root characteristic, is that part of who you are? I feel like it is, but taking care of others.
Hopefully. I don't know.
Do you feel it's a strength? How about that of yours?
I think so. Yeah, I think that could be something that like characterizes my personality, and hopefully that I can get that message around. Maybe it's nothing that I want to be judged by, but I think I mean hopefully it's something that comes out natural.
I see.
You know?
Yes.
But I like to make people feel, welcome and nice. For example, whenever I'm with the family that we work with, like they open the doors of their home. I mean, I've stayed at their houses many nights, and when I say, for example, judge, I mean I can get super drunk on mezcal, like with a maestro.
Yes, sure.
And I can fall asleep in a chair and the maestro next to me, and I will never be judged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are no. That's a really pure feeling, because you're having a connection with people that have no masks. I don't know if you can describe it in some way. So there are no filters for that, and you can just feel it. That it's a very transparent connection.
Yeah,
a very nice way to relate with people.
And it's very communal too. That's one of the things, is that the world of mezcal, and perhaps it's more of a metaphor than an actual world of mezcal necessarily, right? If folks really care about each other,
they do,
and they vouch for each other, and they open doors for each other, both literally and figuratively. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, to be honest, outside of the hospitality industry.
True.
It's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot less drug use probably in the agave community. For sure. But maybe a little bit more mezcal drinking, right? Or maybe it's just the same. But
a lot of mezcal drinking.
But I think that that's something that's why it's so vibrant, and why people will want to be invited into it, or sit at the table.
Right.
And again, figuratively.
Yeah. And it's part of their culture.
Yeah.
It's part of the culture. I've learned so many things that are not mezcal related with the families.
Yeah.
And how they relate. So yeah, they're really teachers,
life is always life. What life actually is we set our sights, as I'm looking past you through these blinds, right? We set our sight on that destination, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the life is what is on this desk right in front of me that I might have just walked past. And when you talk about, because I have this experience a lot with brand people, right? Mm-hmm. They know they don't know what I want to hear, which is good because they never know where I never know where I'm going to go. But they definitely know what they need me to know about their brand, right?
Right.
But that's the thing, is that's not what this podcast is about. That's not what life is about.
Yeah.
And I want personally to be vulnerable. I want my guests to feel like, no, we can talk about life for real. And I don't have to worry about what my Diageo PR people, and this has happened specifically with Diageo before, what they're going to say, right?
Evil.
I mean, it's whatever. They've given me some nice guests and sent them my way and stuff. But all right, so here, I was thinking about Recia, and I was thinking about, and you can talk about this as cryptically as you want.
Okay.
Normally, I'm able to find some semblance of a career and or an online presence for most of my guests. Not always, especially now when I go to the remote palenques, and that's just, right. I'm learning about that person in the moment, much like how I am with you. Knowing that Recia and sometimes the success or added success of a project, a business, hinges pretty heavily on social media stuff.
Yes.
Is that something that is hard for you to teeter, or does your business partner do that? How do you feel you show up today with an online presence?
I mean, I understand that having presence in like social media and all that, is a tool at the end of the day. When Recia was born, it was purely organic, and we had a space, and I said, Anna, let's start a tasting room. She said, yeah, I've always wanted to do a tasting room. And I said, well, okay, let's do it private, and we'll see where that takes us. And I think that we like that being discreet catches attention.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
because we were curating that experience, and we were thinking, okay, we want to bring people that actually care for whatever we are doing. So we were looking more for that word to mouth, organic dynamic. Yes, have our Instagram, which is the only thth that we have. But since we're not a brand of mezcal, and it's not our intention to be a brand of mezcal, it's more about the different selections and all the whole experience, the sensory experience. We wanted for people that heard about us to be a little bit curious about what we did. And so we get sometimes we get an email or a message, and we always ask, how did you find about us? Oh, well, this person recommended. Okay, cool. And then we just hit it up with that person. So that was a little bit like being more prudent in terms of how we move our information out. I think that sometimes social media can be a bad tool when it's easy to abuse what you're always showing, and it's a constant stimulation that we didn't want to go down that road.
I absolutely understand.
So it's more like atmospheric. If you go into the Instagram, you'll see like you'll get a hint of something. But if you wanna know what it is, just text us and we'll engage and you'll set something up. I think that that's a little bit like Anna and I are, and we think that we don't need to push the limit on social media and picture and be all over the place, because I don't think that does any good, and it kind of doesn't make any sense, especially working with the people that we work. And when we talk about mezcal and the way it's done, and it needs a lot of time and patience, that kind of like, if you look at doing a social media where you're always bombarding people with information, I don't know how much of that really people retain in their heads. So Anna and I were always joking, like we said, well, Recia is not for lazy people. If you want to know what we do, just text us or send an email, and we'll tell you what we do. It's I think
maybe the best business model I've ever heard.
It's a little bit. It was a little bit that philosophy, and since we were not planning where to take it, it just hit off like that way. Yeah. I'm not an active person on social media. Anna's not an active person on social media, so it really relates a lot to how we.
It's extension of
how
you.
We are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of extensions of you, I take it that, because here's the thing, there's one thing about being hospitable, which is, taking care of others, especially if they're in your space, as y'all are in my home tonight, right? But there's another piece which I really appreciate too, which I feeling, and Mateo was telling me this, there's a lot of sensory pieces that don't involve taste as the tasting is occurred. Right. The visual and the oral and everything. What do you think that there's, it might be too obvious to say, well, the mezcal is the most important thing. Yeah, sure. That's just the mantelpiece, right? But aesthetically, what is the thing for you that you want to make sure you get right at Recia in your space, aesthetically?
Calmness. Yeah, serenity. For example, in Recia and Oaxaca, I mean, Oaxaca is a busy city. Like it's hectic city. Yeah. Like the main square, the center, it's always buzzing. Like it has a lot of activity. Oaxaca is not a calm city.
It is not. At all. People think it is too.
At all. And I lived in the city center, so I know what I'm talking about. Dude, yeah. So we were trying to create like a change, like a shift. Like once you enter that doorway, then you kind of like, we take you like to calm down, smell whatever's burning in the house, sit down, we'll give you some water and just slow down, and then we'll start engaging in a conversation, and we started tasting. But probably like being calm. It's about enjoying a beverage that's magical, but it's like having a conversation in your living room with friends.
Yes.
So it's not a bar. It's a living room. Yeah. And we wanted people to feel like super relaxed and comfortable, because we're not here to give you a lecture. We're here to share. Yeah. And it goes both ways,
I think seldom have I had a moment during a conversation. There's been, after 8 years of doing this, right? Like, that may be something that you and I have completely in common. Like, I would have said it exactly the same way. I would have used the same words. I use the word probably connection too often, but that's it. That's everything. But what I'm curious though is your recent discovery of tranquility and harmony and learning about yourself in quiet. You said, do you think? And I know this might be hard to answer, but do you think before you started to understand that about yourself, needing those things and practicing it actively, tranquility, harmony, do you think that this room, Recia, would have turned out the same way if you weren't who you are now?
No, probably not. I did have my good fair share of parties 10 years ago. I bet. I'm always saying, Mateo, like, I'm older than you. Like, I'm 9 years older. You'll be my age and you'll know what I'm talking about. But that calmness and tranquility makes me feel more focused and with a clear head. And I really appreciate that a lot.
It's a very important thing. Yeah. It's funny that we often think that the hardest things to get you can buy and they're expensive, right? Yeah. Which we both know that's bullshit. Yeah. Finding inner peace.
That's gold. That's gold, man.
Priceless, right? Like, it's incredibly, incredibly priceless. I know you say you spend some time alone to kind of think. Are there any other practices? Some folks do transcendental meditation, for instance, that for a lot of business and like highly financially successful people, they do that. Any other practices you do daily, weekly that help you get to that place mentally?
I'm learning to meditate, but I don't think I'm that good at it still. But I'm learning. At least I try, for example, to have this morning routine where I don't look at my phone until like after 2 hours I wake up, and that has changed completely. I don't care if someone's texting or somebody's calling or I got an email. I don't care about that. So building that like morning routine has helped me a lot in being much more focused and and focusing on things that might be more important than any other thing that is going on at that specific moment. So I'm learning how to meditate. I think I meditate when I'm doing exercise, like exercising. I've always been into exercise since, like, fortunately, my parents were always sport-inducing parents, so that's a really positive.
Did you play in high school or anything?
I played water polo.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I never played it. I mean, I've seen it.
Hard. When I was, I think probably 16 up until 20, around that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I bet.
A lot of fun.
It's been a profound moment for me learning this about you and your life, you know? I mean, that's the thing, is that you had no idea how this is going to... That's the thing.
I had no idea.
No idea, right? And it's
no
like,
idea.
Well, you know, I've heard podcasters going to ask me about fucking legalizing weed. What's the deal, right? But this is exactly the kind of conversation I wanted to have with you. And I've got just a couple of questions left for you as we kind of start to do some logistical moving of furniture, get people in here for this tasting night, which would be incredible. What's something you want, maybe specifically someone that's here tonight at the tasting, what's something that you really want to make sure they go home with? A notion, right? Obviously a bottle, right? But more a concept.
I would say that maybe it's very general, but at least to feel something beyond technical stuff or beyond that information, to connect with the sensation that I love and that I find when I drink mezcal, and that it takes me to many places.
Yeah.
For me, it's very emotional when I drink mezcal, because of all the things that we've been talking to, and the way it makes you feel, and I think that mezcal connects physically in us in very different layers and levels that I haven't found in any other spirits. I don't drink other spirits anymore. I mean, I try them, but I don't drink them anymore. But I feel mezcal, just, I don't want to sound like a new age, but it does. I personally feel that I connect with something a little bit deeper when I have that buzzing feeling of mezcal.
I don't think it's new age, even if it was. We could root it in science and say, you know, plants have a life. Right, especially a plant that lives as long as some of the agaves do, right? So that all the seasons, all the energy that they have they've consumed it, and then we consume it.
How they've evolved, you know?
Yeah, where as two dudes, maybe we haven't evolved all that much over the.
I think we have a lot to learn, you know.
Yeah, we still
every day, and for me, it's super obvious. So yeah, I would say that would be something.
That's good.
We've never done any obviously when people want to ask about technical stuff or processes or you know, we try to give as clear information of what we know. We don't know everything, obviously. And if we get asked something that we don't know, we'll look for it.
Yeah.
You know?
I love it. No, this is the tasting tonight is going to be absolutely spectacular. I'm very excited.
Hopefully.
No pressure. Come on.
You know, sometimes there are groups that are I can feel it. They're very serious at first, and I always say, if I'm boring you, please let me know. After mezcal number 3, it starts opening things. Yes. It opens your energy, your heart, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's not I'm getting drunk. For me, it's not I'm getting drunk. Yeah. It just works in a different way.
It does. It's a beautiful thing.
I personally think that.
I absolutely agree. It's an art. I mean, all spirits are art, but there's a different specific kind of connective nature and transportative nature of mezcal. Yeah. That Armagnac, we were talking about that in the kitchen. I don't get that from Armagnac or aged spirits, right?
Exactly.
All right, so I got 2 questions left for you. This one, and it may be difficult for you to answer, maybe not.
Okay.
It's not hard. It's not a hard question. I promise. Let's say you can sip any mezcal. It doesn't matter which one, but something that you particularly like lately, and you could sip that mezcal with any musician, living or deceased, who might you like to sit down and have a conversation at Mezcal with?
Jim Morrison.
Oh man! All right, that was quick.
I knew the answer before you asked.
Did you really? Had you been thinking about it?
No, but I think it made sense.
It does make sense. He's a crazy, the 27 Club, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good answer. No one's ever said that.
Not Janis Joplin. She drank too much.
Yeah, no kidding. I got a story about a guy that slept with her too from Austin. That a total stranger at a bar one night. He's like, "Let me tell you a story about Janis Joplin."
Oh, really?
And he told me like how her room smelled and stuff. I was like, "This is like gold. It's gold."
Maybe if you think about a Mexican singer, maybe Jose Jose. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Jose Jose.
Okay.
He's a Mexican icon.
Yeah. Either way, I'm sure it'd be a great conversation.
For sure.
So this is your second stop in Texas, right? You were at Las Almas Rotas, on Thursday or Wednesday?
Both.
It's two.
Both. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the first one was. We usually don't do tastings for more than 10 people. Like that stop. We think like the bigger groups, it just has a different energy.
Right.
So we did 2 nights at Las Almas Rotas, 19 people the first night, and then 10 or 11 the second night,
nice.
Something like that. Which is new for us because we don't tend to do tastings at bars or restaurants because we don't work with them.
Yeah, right.
We work privately.
Yeah.
So it's the first time we do something like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So then where to next? Are you heading back to Oaxaca? You have more Texas travel planned?
It's up to Mateo. I'm heading back to Dallas for a few days, and then I have to go back to Mexico City. I have an event in Mexico City, and then back to Oaxaca, and then hopefully we'll be doing something in Europe.
That's
October.
amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I'm super excited to see what I know tonight's gonna be beautiful. And I'm really excited to see what you do next and the kinds of ways that you grow this premise, of which I think we're really super aligned on. I love the way you think about Mezcal.
Thank you.
Great. Amazing thing. So, Alberto, thank you for taking the time out. Now we got to go move.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it is an absolute pleasure. El gusto es mío. So, we're going to move some furniture and drink some Mezcal.
Seguro.
Perfect. Talk soon. Cheers.
Thanks.
Well, there we have it. Alberto Espinosa from Recia. And again, being in the room with the candles and stuff, sometimes you see these brand ambassadors with these great looking hats and they're trying to tell you how to feel about mezcal. They're trying to tell you how to drink it. There's only one way to do it. Alberto is not like that. This was a very, very connective tasting between he and the folks in my living room ultimately. And I'll tell you exactly the moment that it made sense to me, besides the music and the sage, which creates this nice aesthetic, right, that you kind of walk into almost like a cloud of ambiance, right? He would sit down with us and stand sometimes, stand, these kinds of things. And then it became like this fireside chat as if we were all surrounding this amazing thing, the mezcal, of course, itself. But really, we're all surrounding like the culture of mezcal, the connection that we all individually have to it. And we talked about tasting notes, how we felt about it. Really, really magical moment. And when you sip mezcal with the right people, it is something that you often don't forget, those moments, those nights. So Alberto, thank you so much for coming into Austin and really gracefully sharing these beautiful mezcales from Miahuatlán, Santa Catarina, Minas, and some other places. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. I wanted to announce that, I was doing TikTok reviews and stuff for a while, and I did like hundreds of them, and I was drinking whiskey I didn't want to drink, and that's how you get likes and follows and stuff. And that's not really me. I try to create things that I want to create for the purpose of making my passion known or being able to just express myself. So I did start, for those of you who are readers, I'm not writing long entries, but I did start an account on Substack called Every Bottle Has a Story. And so far, I've been putting out stuff for a few weeks now, and it's really nice to share some more personal things with folks, through the lens of beautiful bottles. So no matter if you're watching a movie you didn't know exists that was based on a Bret Easton Ellis screenplay, if you're thinking, I'm going to be going to Scotland in a couple months, it's kind of massive, please keep dancing.